Today we are going to discuss about business policy and strategy. In that unit 1 about understanding of corporate strategy. So in this unit 1 we'll start with overview of business policy and strategy, and then we'll go for introduction to strategy. We'll discuss about what is strategy. We try to understand strategic windows, how corporate strategy works in different types of organization, and how some companies will not have any type of strategic management. Why do they lack strategic management in some companies? And then we'll finally discuss about 10 principles of strategy, and then we'll summarize the total unit. Then we'll go for some assignment and quiz. And the first introduction, the objectives. What is the objectives of this unit? The unit Introduction to corporate strategy explains about the strategy and the nature of strategy and levels of strategy. And then this unit discuss about the concept of strategic windows, and then we'll discuss how different levels of corporate strategy works in different types of organization, and we'll explain further why some organizations don't have strategic management, why they don't undertake strategic management. Finally, we list down the 10 principles of strategy. So in this topic, we'll discuss corporate strategy and its definition and nature, as well as its levels in an organization. Coming to introduction, any discussion on a business or management today is incomplete without using two words, that is competition and the other one is strategy. In this competitive world, every organization needs to have its own strategy in order to realize its objectives. What is strategy? Strategy is a concept that is used universally, but understood or misunderstood differently, and therefore it is defined differently by different people. In fact, strategy as a concept is better described and more easily put into practice than defined. In other words, defining strategy is a very difficult, whereas putting the strategy into action is an easy thing compared to the definition. Various companies recognize that strategy is central to business and management. It is also recognized that it is the strategy that makes a company or mars the company. It makes the difference between the success or the failure of many companies and organizations. As earlier we discussed, strategy is very difficult to define. However, we have to understand before going further what is the concept of strategy, what is the practice of strategy. Actually, the concept of strategy and planning started in military, and over time it entered into business and management. The determination of basic long-term goals and objectives of an enterprise and the adoption of the courses of action and the allocation of scarce resources necessary for carrying out these goals is one definition given by Mr. Chandler in the year 1962. Another definition given by Mr. Unsoff in the year 1965, he defined strategy as the common thread among organizations' activities and product markets that defines the essential nature of business that the organization was or planned to be in the future. The third and final definition, which came recently in the year 1996 by the Porter, the management guru. Strategy is defined as developing and communicating the company's unique position, making trade-offs, and forging fit among activities. So, various people define strategy at different times in different ways. So, from these, one can understand the concept of strategy, which came originally from military and fit into the business and management environment. So next, as we discussed earlier, we discussed the concept of a strategic window. What is the strategic window? The strategic window, as we decided, strategic window, this one concept which was introduced by Mr. Abel in 1978. What is strategic window? A strategic window focuses attention on the fact that there are only limited periods during which the fit between the key requirements of a market and the particular competencies of a firm competing in that market is at an optimum disinvestment should be contemplated also. Here, this is the concept. They say there are only few times during which the match between the key requirements of the market and the firm's particular competencies are at the optimum. This is an ideal concept but rarely occurs in an organization. It is nothing but the perfect match between what the organization has and what the market needs. So it rarely exists in a practical world. Next, coming to the other point, we go for corporate strategy in different organizations. How different organizations will have their own strategy, their own business or corporate strategy. Organizations are different in sizes, in nature, in operations, and in activities. Different types of organizations will have their operations, the nature of their operations, the objectives of their organization, and the priorities of the organizations. They're different. So, do you think every organization will have a corporate strategy? Maybe, may not be. In many cases, the successful organizations, they have their own corporate strategy in their organizations. Say, for example, the businesses, based on their size, can be defined as medium and large sized. In large businesses or companies, whether they are in the private sector or public sector, the situation is entirely different. The external environment and the internal environment in which these organizations operate is different. The objectives of these organizations, the priorities of these organizations are also different. And there are global organizations or international or multinational organizations which have a greater focus on growth and development, and they do have diversified markets in terms of both products and as well as markets. So they have to be globally competitive and they have to sustain their global presence. So in public sector companies, they are quite different in terms of their objectives and priorities. The objectives of a private organization or multinational organizations is to make profit, whereas the objectives of a public sector company is to serve the people, to cater to the needs of society, the public in general. So the public sector priorities are different from those of the private sector organizations. Say, public sector organization, their priority can be to create employment opportunities and to maximize the output, even though it may not be profitable, even though it may incur losses to serve the society. So, as we discussed now, we can understand that the corporate strategy is quite different from public to private organization and small to large sized organization and domestic companies to international companies. Next, do you think every company will have a strategic management? No. The answer is no. But majority of them has strategic management in their companies. Why do the companies lack strategic management? So this aspect is studied by Mr. David in the year 2003, and he mentioned various reasons for no strategic planning and management by companies, or even if it exists, there is a poor planning and management at strategic level by these companies. What are the reasons? What reasons? One is poor reward structure and evasive content with success, overconfidence, firefighting, waste of time, and implementation of strategic planning and management is too expensive, and the previous prior bad experiences and differences of opinion among different levels of management, self-interest, a fear of the failure and fear of the unknown things and suspicion. There are a lot of reasons that are mentioned why the companies doesn't have a strategic planning and management, or even if they have, it is not managed properly. It's poorly managed. So these are the different reasons why there is no strategic planning and management in many companies. The next aspect we wanted to discuss about is, in this unit, the 10 principles of strategy. The 10 principles of strategy is like 10 commandments. Duro and Sandstorm 3 have mentioned about these 10 principles of strategy for any organization who has a goal or who has an objective to have a proper strategy at corporate level. The first thing is set a goal.